Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen in the legislature. Correction Officer Joseph Pascarella is a 36-year Nassau County employee. 34 years as a Nassau County Correction Officer. Mr. Pascarella is also a lifelong member of the Westbury Volunteer Fire Department. Several members of his family are also lifelong county employees, including his father, Joe Sr., now deceased, who was also a Nassau County Correction Officer and former head of the Nassau County Veteran Service Agency. His sister, Maureen, is the longtime secretary of the County Sheriff's Department Training Academy. His mother and another sister are also Nassau County employees. To say there is obviously a long record of public service in the Pascarella family is an understatement. As for why we're here today, Joe Pascarella is not only a correction officer, not only a volunteer firefighter, not only a member of a proud family dedicated to public service, he's also a member of the 9/11 community, having responded to Ground Zero as a first responder who answered the call after those terrible events of 20 years ago. Joe worked with his fire department on the pile during the search and rescue efforts alongside many of our correction officers who also responded in various law enforcement, fire department, and volunteer capacities. In April of 2019, Joe Pascarella was diagnosed with colon cancer. This cancer was diagnosed, certified, and treated through the World Trade Center Health Program and is directly related to his service at Ground Zero. Joe, being a very private person, kept this diagnosis from the majority of his coworkers and just dealt with what life had thrown his way. Then COVID hit in March of 2020. As a correction officer, Joe works in the fire safety unit. This unit is a unit that oversees the enforcement of fire regulations at the correctional facility, but is also responsible for mitigating and correcting biohazards that occur there. When COVID hit, the fire unit was and still is responsible for biohazard cleaning and disinfecting of cells and areas where COVID-infected inmates were and are housed. From March 2020 until November of 2020, while undergoing radiation and chemotherapy for his cancer, Joe Pascarella never once wavered or hid from his responsibility as a correction officer in the fire safety unit, overseeing the biohazard cleaning and disinfecting of hundreds of cells that house COVID-positive inmates. He did this without ever complaining or asking once for an accommodation from anyone. I didn't know what Joe was going through with this cancer diagnosis until I learned from his sister Maureen of a long and arduous surgery that Joe endured, one that actually left him permanently unable to work. I called Joe. Basically, I broke his chops and said, "Why the hell did you keep doing this, risking repeated exposure to COVID if you were going through this medical problem?" His answer was simple. This was my job. I wasn't going to leave my brother and sister officers hanging with all this COVID stuff going on. They were relying on me. This is something you don't see much of our world anymore, and it's certainly not something that the public associates with Nassau County Correction Officers, law enforcement in general. Complete and utter dedication to his job, complete loyalty to his brother and sister officers during a terrible time, putting aside his own trials and tribulations and personal health crisis to keep doing his job because people relied on him. For that, we're here today to honor and recognize Joe Pascarella as our top correction officer, and I'm proud to call him my friend of over 30 years.
I just want to say I want to thank the legislature for taking time out of their busy schedule to honor me. It's been a long trip. Hopefully I dodged the bullet, but only time will tell. And I definitely want to thank the sheriff, and all my fellow workers, correction officers, and supervisors, lieutenants, and captains behind me for spending their day with me. The gentleman right here is my supervisor in the unit. He was right next to me in those COVID cells. So he was in the trenches with me. So were a lot of other officers. It wasn't just me, but in the fire service, we learned you leave no one behind. I couldn't walk out on him then. I'm not going to walk out on him now, but I wanted to say thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Sheriff, did you want to say anything?
James Arenda, for the record. I just want to say that, This is something that the public really doesn't see that we do every single day. The correction officers are there. They put their lives on the line every day. It's a type of work that actually nobody even recognizes how important it is to the safety of the community and how we rely on each other to actually get home safe every day. And, you know, it's not only just thanks to him, but it's thanks to every correction officer that's out there in this county. We rely on you, we count on you, and we thank you. And we thank you, the legislature, as well.
Legislator Schaefer.
Good afternoon. I'm so happy to see you here today, all of you, because as was just said by the sheriff, this is not something we see often enough. We don't hear about what's going on in the jails, except to maybe hear some negative things, but to hear about the heroics and what you're doing there to keep the community safe. It's you do much more than most people even realize. So it's really an honor to honor you. And Joe, you know, I know you personally. I know your family. I don't know that I have even can find the words to say what I feel. Just thank you so much. You and your family are such generous people. I certainly know that, like I said, you know, from a personal experience. But here today now, so many more people get to hear who you are and what you're all about, and the teamwork and the leadership that you have shown. And that is so important, again, just because you deserve it, and also because people need to see what you guys endure and how you keep us safe. So thank you so much. I really, you know, from the bottom of my heart, I just really, really appreciate all that you've done for us, and just for being such a strong example of a human being for all of us. Thank you.
Just wanted to add that you know, in the heart of the pandemic, when all of us were concerned about our safety, concerned about our families, sheltering in place, worried about what we were touching, worried about going to the supermarket, your members were going to work every day inside the jail when we knew COVID was inside that jail. So especially with you, Officer Pascarella, the fact that you were going with your personal circumstances is truly, you know, you use this term heroic a lot, but it was truly heroic. And on behalf of the Nassau County's residents, we thank you for your service.
And Joe, I just want to thank you too, and certainly everyone who's standing there with you for all you do day in and out. Certainly your work with the fire service, and certainly over in corrections, what you face each and every day. You know, even when we've just done a tour and we get a little glimpse of what's being done, it just, you know, it just amazes me that you deal with this day in and day out. And then you dealt with it when you were dealing with other issues too. And you and I shared a little bit that, you know, those issues, you're going to get through those. And I just pray for you, and God gives you the strength to keep going and to get through the rest of this. And I know all your colleagues too, they were there helping you get through that each day too, because I know my colleagues were certainly here for me. And I told you, you know, think the positive. We're warriors together and nobody fights alone. So we're here for you. God bless you, and thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, Sheila, right on.
Thank you. Thank you, Presiding Officer. Good afternoon to you all, and to Officer Pascarella, I have to say, wow, you are courageous. We didn't know what to do when COVID came down, COVID-19. As Rich said, we were all running scared. And having known firsthand how it is to feel after chemotherapy and radiation, I will tell you, I have the utmost respect for you. Not only the psychological impacts of, you know, dealing with COVID and the disease and the treatment, but the physical. I know it had to be hard to push through that. So I say thank you. You've kept hundreds of people inside that facility who you're entrusted for their custody and their care safe. And then all of your brothers and sisters who were also then, their risk was mitigated and they were able to go home to their families. So I'm happy to see you here today, and I just pray your continued health. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please join us on the dais for a presentation.